Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. It's 5:07, so I'll call the meeting to order. Pam will be here momentarily. So with that, I'll just start by making a few introductions. We have with us this evening our city clerk is Don Motzko, our director of public works is Gary Peters, and then we have council members present, Kathleen Refkin, Ann McGregor, John Chumperlin, and anytime soon, Pam Mortensen. I'm Lisa Whalen. I'm the mayor. And then Jasper Krugel is our city administrator, and Brian Grimm is our finance director. So welcome. Thank you for coming. I'll hand it over to Jasper if you want to say a few words, and then we'll hand it over to AE2.
Yeah, I'll see if I can buy a little time. Black and Beach.
Oh, okay. AE2S is on our first, so sorry.
Yeah. So
you're confusing me.
It's important.
I didn't look up there.
Yeah. So Black and Beach will be going first, and then AE2S will be going second. So I can talk a little bit about the process that got us here. We went out and offered an RFP for water infrastructure engineering services. Here comes Pam, and we ended up, I think, directly solicited about 8 engineering firms. We got 5 RFPs back. The selection committee, which was consisted of myself, the finance director, public works director, council member Refkin, and council member McGregor, narrowed it down to these 2. So that's why we're here today to evaluate these 2. Both are good candidates. That's why they're here, and they're here to kind of answer some questions. I let them know that there might be some informal conversations in between the questions. If you have something that you want to follow up on that maybe they talk about a little bit in their presentation, feel free to do that. And then there will be just a little Q&A if you choose at the end. And then we have the other firm coming in after we wrap up the first one. And we do have one additional item tonight about the water rate study. So that's all I have.
All right. So we'll go right to you, gentlemen. Thank you for being here.
Mayor Whalen, members of the City Council, and other members of city staff, appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today. So by way of introduction, Jasper had sent a number of questions. We have some slides put together for those 4, but please feel free to jump in anytime and ask a question. We'd rather have a little bit more informal. So I present 4 people here today. So my name is Scott Fronick. I'm a client director within Black and Beach. I oversee water and wastewater projects for Minnesota, North and South Dakota. With me today is Adam Marcos. Adam is a project manager from our office. That means he technically kind of oversees day-to-day engineering aspects as well as things like finances, budget, schedule. Bo Johnson is with us today. Bo is really our kind of technical person in terms of water supply and treatment. He spends most of his career doing drinking water work, and has done a lot of work for cities around the Twin Cities. And then unfortunately, Tricia Christensen could not be with us today. She heads up our planning group and spends a lot of time on not only planning, but like distribution system work for water systems. So she think of things like water age, how critical pipes are in terms of failure, fire flow, hydraulic constraints, optimization, things like that. So that would be the team that you would be working with. So Black and Beach is over 100 years old, founded in 1915. We have a little over 9,000 people. About 20 years ago, we opened up an office in the Twin Cities to kind of more locally focus on clients and delivering projects here. We have about 130 people that focus in really 3 areas: water, power, and then telecommunications. And our water office is really focused on Minnesota, North and South Dakota. On the water side, we kind of focus on drinking water, wastewater, stormwater, water resources. On the drinking water side, we focus on a lot of different things, everything from planning all the way through design and construction. You can see it up there in the lower left. And on the right side is just a list of some communities that we've worked with within the Twin Cities, some of your neighbors. You'll hear a little bit more about some of our work in Dayton, but we've done everything from kind of small studies to kind of larger complex projects, everything from study, evaluation, design, and construction.
All right, thanks.
Any questions maybe about Black and Beach as a company or anything we can answer?
No.
Okay.
So the second question you guys asked was talk about a work we've done for maybe a similar city with related water infrastructure projects, and right away the work we've been doing for the city of Dayton came to mind. So I thought I'd just go over kind of their quick, brief history, and then see if you guys have any questions, and also talk about some of the projects we had. So Dayton called and reached out to us in 2018, so we've been working for them for 4 years. Up here I've got a map of the city, and I guess just a couple things to point out. The very faint blue lines, they don't show up very well in here, is their distribution systems. And I immediately, when I saw a map of Minnetrista's distribution system, it seemed similar, where there's a lot of different pockets of distribution systems. It's really challenging because there's not one central treatment you can do. It's all distributed around, and each area has unique challenges. So in Dayton, the northeast is their biggest problem area, but there's also issues in the northwest, and then in the south they're served by Maple Grove, and that's for them a different challenge because it's a loss of revenue for them. So they've got different issues here, but kind of similar to what I was seeing when I was researching Minitrista. So here's the pictures of water they were seeing in Dayton. Obviously a big problem, and when Marty over there reached out to me, he was kind of at his wit's end. He couldn't find anybody to really help him or solve his problems, and so he brought us in, and we started to see what we could do. So when we saw this, the first step we did was we didn't want to just kind of throw projects at it to see what would fix it. We really wanted to get down to the heart of the issue, so we created a water quality tracking form over there for them, and whenever a resident had a problem with their water quality, we asked them to fill out this online form. And so it would log where they were, what time of day it was, what their issue was, what they were doing, where in their house it was. And we got a bunch of data to try to help us understand why they were having water quality issues and when. And then it would help us target how to try to fix it. So this was really good. And it also was a tool for the city to use so that they just didn't get yelled at all the time. And they had the residents had an outlet to hear like they were being heard, or feel like they were being heard. So Bo, who's more of our water chemistry guru, will kind of talk about what improvements we made to the city to try to help them.
Yeah, so I mean the first step is really understanding the issue. There's certainly other challenges that were in Dayton, but this primarily came down to a water chemistry issue. A new well was put in. The test well had some data. That data was kind of right on the edge of being in one treatment by adding a chemical or another treatment by filtering. So with that data right on the edge, really what they decided to go with the less expensive option. And as they developed that well, they brought it online, they really found out that they had drilled into a good pocket of water, and their water was much worse than it actually was. And so, unfortunately, the technology that they had, the way their well house was set up, really didn't allow for treatment of that water. It was pretty much a problem from day one. And on top of that, the water was spending a very long time in the distribution system. So our planning group with Tricia, they were able to figure out, well, hey, that water age is really causing an issue. That reaction is allowing to happen. And they had a water tower that specifically was kind of a big white spot in the line that was kind of exacerbating the issue. So the second issue that really wasn't a technical issue, but it was more of a funding issue. The city had just sunk a lot of money into this new well and a new tower, and they were now, we had to have the uncomfortable conversation saying, well, it's really not going to do it for you. And so the first question is, well, what can we do right away in order for us to, make this a better situation? We're not getting a whole bunch of complaints. And then what's the long term fix? So some of the things that we ended up implementing is really changing the way that they were actually feeding chemicals. This allowed them to optimize. The city did not have any kind of monitoring program, so we were able to come in, establish that with their staff, explain what they need to look for, give them protocols for changing chemical dose, and really adding a couple other things like some additional mixing and the water tower, some changes on how that flow came into the water tower. So all relatively inexpensive adds. Probably the most expensive thing was in that lower left-hand corner was the addition of a chemical feed skid that allowed them to better track what they were feeding. But really what ended up happening there is you can actually see this is the data that came out of that spreadsheet. We don't have any data from August 13th before. Certainly they were getting lots of complaints, but once we implemented that, we were understanding when they were getting complaints and what was happening. A number of items did come through. We had that phosphate skid install. We did have water tower improvements. It didn't fix the problem because, frankly, the way the well was set up, we needed a long-term fix for it. But we were able to monitor it, and now each one of those points that actually would come up, we can actually attribute that to something that happened in the system. Either they were flushing the water, they were a new developer was coming on, something happened to allow that water to actually flush through. So the eventual solution is really wellhead treatment, very similar to what we're hearing from Minnetrista. In this case, we were able to, we have a project that's currently in design right now. The original solutions were coming in 2018, 2019, but the funding issue really was the big part, right? And it wasn't until 2021 where we were able to secure some funding and allow for that ultimate solution to come through. So the treatment right now, it's going to treat for that high iron. It's going to allow us to switch out that phosphates, and we're really designing that wellhead plant. So I guess any questions on that example of kind of helping out another city?
But Dayton is growing a lot faster than we are. So
yeah, and we also worked with them on. I mean, they're behind the times.
Yeah.
Helping their city council, helping their public works director really look at how do you be proactive so your water plant and your wells are online before the development actually starts. And then really it's also they have challenges because they want to develop in a smart way. They want to develop and keep, they have large lots, they have these large, almost farmsteads, but how do you get water to them and to develop these other, smaller subdivisions in a smart way so that it is online when they need the water. And so we're currently working with them on that to try to progress that along and make sure that we're getting kind of caught up on the whole planning aspect.
So another question, here in Minitrista, we're somewhat limited on our wells. We're in the Jordan Aquifer, the Tunnel Sinnewanawalk, and then we also have the Mount Simon. Have you ever dealt with the DNR drilling into the Mount Simon?
Isn't which one's the?
I think it's in Tunnel City.
Tunnel City.
Yeah.
We have not drilling into the Mount Simon, but treating the Mount Simon. We do. Most of the stuff that we're looking at for actually drilling has been in the Jordan,
right?
The Tunnel Sinnewanawalk, but
right. So, because as you know, drilling into the Mount Simon is somewhat complicated with the DNR. So,
yes.
I just was wondering what your experience would be in that. Okay. Council? Okay.
Yeah. So the next question is the strategy to kind of meet the expectations of staff, other consulting engineers, and city council, and then also describe a communication challenge and you've encountered and how you've overcome that challenge. So we're actually going to divide this up into kind of 4 sections. So the first thing is really meeting the expectations of staff. And I think, probably this is really boiled down to that last bullet point is we want to be, and where we find the most success is being the trusted partner with the city. We want to, basically come in and I'll have your staff feel comfortable enough with us that they can call you and they can call us at any time. If anything comes up, just a phone call away. A couple of really good examples of this is the work that we've done for Burnsville and Savage. Burnsville started in 2009. I've been working there with them since that time. And really it was a water source that came on that was not The treatment plant was really not set up for removal of tasting odors. And from that time, we ended up coming in and having, we call it an extended services contract or staff augmentation contract. And so we're able to help them out, take calls pretty much at their whim. So I don't think there's probably a month that's gone by, probably maybe not a week, where I don't have some sort of call from Burnsville on something that's happening in their city. But this collaboration and communication really being an extension of your staff, we feel like that it does a number of things. Number one, the transparency. We're going to shoot you straight. If it's something that's not the best and it's a delicate situation, we want to feel comfortable enough with staff in order to have those conversations, and frankly, comfortable enough with the city council to have those conversations as well. Responsiveness is, it's a call, and we're here. We had one instance in Burnsville and Savage. They're actually consecutive users. Burnsville sells water to Savage. Savage and Burnsville were having some water quality issues. Basically, the water chemistry from Burnsville was adversely affecting what was happening in Savage. Mike from Savage gave us a call. We were able to pull in a national expert. National expert within a week basically said, "Here's your issue. This is what you need to do. Here's how you reply to those complaints that are coming in." And since that time, another situation where Mike Climbers calls us up, and we're able to just do that type of work for him. So, and really, what it comes down to is that second point is that we would highly recommend a master contract. If you guys have a specific need, we do a task order. We just do it. It's much more nimble. It's much easier for us to be able to do that work and to help you out when you need the help, which is usually right away.
The next question asks about consulting engineers. I could talk a lot about different things, but I want to maybe get at the heart of the question. So maybe, Jasper, do you know what was maybe intended by that?
Yeah, so if I may, we have a WSB as our city engineer, working with them, collaborating with them, like on a road reconstruction project potentially where there's water main replacement. We'd like to have the water resource group be able to provide input and work with that engineer that's doing the design, making sure that it meets the standards of our water resource engineer. So
really helpful, because we work all the time on complex projects which require lots of other engineering firms. So in Dayton, we're working with their city engineer. Adam and I did a water main for the city of Minneapolis right adjacent to a bridge. Required us working with the bridge designer, a real estate consultant, the bridge contractor. We worked on a project down south where our project was right on the river. At the same time, another consultant was redoing the riprap on the river. So almost, I'd say not all, but a lot of our projects require coordination with other engineers. So something that we're really pretty familiar with and cognizant about. And frankly, we just need to understand what the client's overall objectives are. That helps us kind of guide kind of our strategy.
And then to meet your expectations, we understand that everyone has different levels of technical understanding, and frankly, technical, some people just, I guess, want to know more about things than others. And what we want to do is just be able to get you the right tools to make the decisions and that are right for your city. Again, I go back to Dayton. Bo and I have sat in front of their city council 5 times over the last 4 years. Providing frequent updates, collaborating, communicating, just making sure that they understand what the issues are, and so that they can make their informed decisions when they need to. And they spell their name wrong on their meeting. So, any other questions? Yeah. Good thing I didn't wear the same shirt.
I actually was about to put that shirt on.
Any questions about those last 3 groups of people?
I guess maybe just as far as the one we maybe haven't touched on, as far as staff. I mean, obviously you probably have a good working relationship. I mean, Gary's always right. No, I'm kidding. As far as public works director. So, but just as far as knowing, obviously that as a public works department, they're on the ground every day, and just being able to work back and forth with them as far as what they're seeing and implementing your recommendations and teamwork coordination, just all that stuff is important, and staying within budget on my end as finance director, I guess. So just how do you, I don't know, give some examples or not even, or just even talk a little bit about that, I guess. So.
Yeah, I would say, things have really changed in the last 20 years. So we used to kind of just go away in our own office, do a project, and hand it back. And it's just not like that anymore. So there's a ton of collaboration. Every client we deal with, every city we deal with, we see a high degree of desire for collaboration. So whether it's technical people or council members or finance, we end up working a lot with them. So, both talked about Burnsville and Savage. He's worked with, I think, 5 or 6 different people with the city of Burnsville over the last 10 years. Some people have retired, some people are in different positions, but it requires a lot of coordination and a lot of communication. And so, we're in regular contact with our clients all the time. So it's kind of second nature for us, I would say.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is a lot of that work in person, or is it over the phone, or is there probably there's no norm, but what's the average?
Yeah.
Is it usually just answering questions?
So I'm going to let Adam answer that because he's going to get into that in our next slide about COVID. Because I think part of the answer is what things used to look like, what things did look like, and where we're going now. So,
But you've had calls where you've gone and met people at people's houses just to take an issue, take a sample, and it kind of runs the gamut. Whatever they need.
Yeah, I would say, when you're dealing with something hands-on, like water sampling, or it kind of depends on what action you're actually doing, right? If you're going out and you're helping with water sampling, obviously you got to do that in person. If we're reviewing stuff, be done in the office. I would say, in general, we pushed a lot more to update meetings over Teams or some sort of web video, just so you can still have that face-to-face. But there's still a fair amount of traveling out to the actual site. You just have to. You have to be able to see what see that issue, what's actually happening. So.
A couple of questions if I may. Everything's fine and dandy, 9 to 5 type stuff. Trouble never happens during the day. So
It's always at 4 o'clock on a Friday.
Well, yeah, that's true morning. Assuming that there'll be emergency numbers we can call at that time and we'll get a response. And
It honestly depends on what you're looking for. Water quality stuff, yes. We have
a water treatment plant issue or something like that.
we have a number that you can call into somebody who's around. I think that it becomes a challenge because sometimes that person is not here. They may be in Kansas City, they may be in Ann Arbor, they may be wherever. So usually it ends up coming to one of us. So first thing in the morning we're checking text messages and phone calls and whatnot. And just the other day I had to go out to Burnsville first thing in the morning because something happened on a Friday afternoon. They shut a filter down and needed to go out and take a look at it. So.
Their question would be for, on our aspect, is our SCADA system. Good providers are hard to find. Good programming, good companies that can provide service, and especially Wonderware is what we use, and Women do you have in-house people that are familiar with that programming and running and helping out with issues with the SCADA system there?
Yes, I will say all of our folks that are programmers are not local, but we do have them that are on staff. Most of the time they will end up doing a program update, and we really want them to kind of understand how your program works and how that goes through. They'll do a program update that can be sent out to a local integrator or a local person to actually come out and actually install that software or install that update.
Who do you really work with in this area? Or you do a primary contracts you work with?
In terms of like automatic systems or in control.
Yeah.
Yep. We see those two a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. Throughout our projects. And some of our larger clients do their own programming.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
So the second part of that communication question wanted us to talk about communication challenges, and so I picked kind of a very specific project example and then just overall communication. On the project example, it seems pretty simple, but it had an impact on our project, and I thought it'd be impactful to share it. So we were working on a project, a fairly large project for a wastewater plant, and halfway through the project manager from the city that we had a really good relationship, known for many years, left the project, and a new project manager came on the project, and there was definitely, and I kind of reminded me of your question there, just when you didn't have that connection, the quality of the project delivery went down, and it was really frustrating for Scott and I on the project, and we needed to figure out a way to make it better. And it was during COVID, and it was really hard to communicate at all. So as soon as restrictions came up, it was just as simple as driving down there and asking for a lunch and just kind of backing away from the project and getting to know the person personally and on a deeper level. And so it was just something that we felt like would be good, and it was good. And from there, the project went a lot better. So, I mean, I guess being able to recognize when things need to change, and even if the change isn't because of us, just making an effort to change something so that you don't just spiral out of into a bad place. It was good, and so I guess that's our simple communication challenge example. And then on a kind of overall, COVID over the last 2 years has been a huge just communication hurdle for everybody, and I felt like we did a really good job of embracing being able to work remotely. All of us engineers had to learn how to use the camera button on our computer because we didn't like to use it before, and it's still a struggle now, but it does make a difference when you turn your camera on, so we always try to. And then, we've done a really good job, I think, of developing collaboration tools over the last couple of years. They've kind of always been the next thing to come, but with COVID, I felt like we were able to really accelerate them, and I thought I'd share a couple of those tools just because I think they're really cool, and a lot of the people we're working with think so too. So, just simple things like doing things in 3D, sharing them on the cloud so that everybody who wants access can get access, can go see what we're doing at any time. It's updated every day when we're doing models of facilities that we're designing. It's browser-based, and it's kind of fun just to be able to walk around and see where the progress is. You don't have to wait until the normal deliverables to see where the progress is. So people have really liked that. And once you're in a platform like this, I'm going to skip to here. The virtual reality has always been kind of the next big thing, and for us, I think we're finally there where it can be useful. On that same project with the project manager we took out to lunch, we did a big lab upgrade, and it was really, for those who have looked at drawings, it's sometimes hard to tell what's going on, especially in an area as congested as a lab, and we were able to use one of their big garages and put on virtual reality goggles, and the lab staff were actually able to walk around and perform their day-to-day duties in virtual reality and be like, I really need the sink over here. I wish there were cabinets here instead of drawers. I don't think we could have ever gotten to that level of satisfaction just using 2D based drawings. And so that's kind of a cool communication collaboration tool we've developed, or not developed, but embraced, I should say. And then the other, thing we've been using with COVID and trying to be safe and not have as many people on site, and frankly not, it's expensive to have people all get out to the site and make site visits. And so there's other technology out there we're using where you can send one person with a 360 camera and a meeting, and they can walk, and everyone can see the site and get good details. Where before, you're just trying to take pictures, and you're always 1 foot away from the picture you actually need. And this just helps us collaborate with our team, and then I just think it makes communication a lot easier.
It also goes into project documentation as well. If something goes wrong, 5-10 years down the way, we have videos and photos and updates of what was actually installed at certain milestones. So it allows us to go back and see, what was the rebar inside that concrete before it got poured, or there's different examples, but we also use it for documentation as well.
Any other communication questions?
No. I'm sure we have other questions, so I think we're good on communications.
So the last thing is just to kind of follow up on, is there something that we would like to leave you with that sets Black and Beach apart? And I just kind of want to leave you with 3 thoughts. Black and Beach prides itself on having a lot of loyalty. For the last 20 years, we've been employee owned. I think it goes a long way to help us kind of develop that consistency between employees in the company. Bo's been with us 17 years. Adam's been with us 15. I've been with Black and Beach 24 years. There's just a lot of consistency and continuity. Bo touched on a project in Burnsville. We walked a little bit timidly into their office in 2009, not sure what we were getting into, and we've been doing work for them ever since. Lakeville's another good story. We're in the mid-1990s. Some of our coworkers did some initial planning with Lakeville. Around 2000, we helped design and then build a new water plant. They were growing really rapidly. 5-6 years later, they needed another one, and that was in 2005 or so. And then in 2016, we did some studies and some upgrades. And then Bo and I are just finishing up a long-range plan for Lakeville. They're approaching build-out, and they're trying to figure out how do we make sure we have enough water for the long term. So for 25 years, we've been doing kind of a lot of Lakeville's, nearly all of Lakeville's water planning work. Secondly, we got a history of responding to kind of unique challenges around the Twin Cities. In Burnsville, they had a groundwater plant that was really actually treating surface water. Wasn't quite set up for that. Bo mentioned Savage that had some really unique water chemistry challenges. And in Dayton, we're working through some issues where their approach to kind of wells and water treatment just is not meshing together. So I don't think we often find ourselves solving problems that other firms either can't quite tackle or are having challenges with. And then third, Black and Beach offers kind of world-class engineering talent. The example that Bo gave in Savage, we don't do that without a PhD on our staff that kind of had some unique knowledge of that particular issue. Adam and I finished up a tunnel under the Mississippi River last year. We don't do that without really smart geotechnical engineers that understand rocks and geology and how to get through that stuff. There's really not an issue or a problem, I think, that somebody within our company hasn't seen before. So, that's what I wanted to leave you with relative to sort of unique aspects of Black and Beach.
So we don't have a lot of time left, but I do have a couple questions, and maybe rest of the council does too. So designing facilities, sometimes they need to be done yesterday. So, yeah, you know that. Probably Dayton is one of those. So how do you address facilities, and how long with your company, what's your experience in terms of designing and actually completing and bringing online a water treatment facility? And we're assuming a gravity filtration system. Obviously, there's different ones, so let's just go with the simple one.
Yeah, and you're looking in terms of like just general time or just in...
Yeah, designing, bidding, online.
Yeah, I would say, in a real general sense, I would say in terms of design, we could probably do something anywhere from 4 to 8 months if it was really a fast track, maybe a little bit longer if it had to do some planning or some study involved, so it's hard to know exactly how much time. Bidding typically takes a couple months to advertise, get bids, review bids, get it to the city council. And then, construction can happen pretty fast. It depends on if it's a greenfield project or if it's a retrofit, but I'm always amazed at how much one can get done in 12 to 15 months. So, I don't know.
2.5 years?
Yeah, I would say that's probably...
And I think the caveat on that is that is a traditional design bid.
Right.
There are certainly alternative delivery options, design build, progressive design build, where you got the contractor on it, and that duration gets squeezed, but that becomes a very fast track, and you really need to have the right relationship. Certainly, progressive design build or straight up design build. We've got experience with that, but it tends to take a much different path and a different different series of steps on how you're going to deliver that project. But just know that's an option, but there's pros and cons to those.
And then also, again, referring back to Dayton, since they get a lot of some of their water, maybe half of their water, I'm not sure, but from Maple Grove. Have you ever worked with a community to try and coordinate water resources? So, for instance, we have St. Bonnie over here that has excess water. Have you ever worked with a community like that to try and get both communities on line to agree to share water? I know you've worked with Burnsville and Savage. Anything like that?
I think from like actually negotiating those overall contracts, no, not directly. Certainly within Black Beach, we have lots of people have done rural water systems where you've got one supplier that are going out to multiple wholesale suppliers. So really that ends up being a contractual issue, but a lot less than an engineering issue. But certainly things that we've got people on staff that have done.
But in terms of like Burnsville and Savage, we're quite familiar with what their water needs are. And in terms of a longer range plan, trying to figure out where the water is coming from, we've helped them with that.
Okay.
You seem to have the most experience with water issues in the whole surrounding area with Minneapolis and all surrounding cities. Do you ever get pulled in to do consulting for, say, comprehensive plans for either individual cities or for the whole area? And I'm thinking that maybe the city of Minneapolis would actually call you in to consult with water going from the St. Croix all the way out, since the aquifers all share.
I would say as a company, we definitely have that experience.
Okay.
I would say locally, we just haven't. We've pursued a couple projects that we haven't been successful at in terms of like long range water planning, like my council does some of that planning.
Yeah.
Water supply planning.
Yeah.
Water comp planning, like distribution system planning, collection systems planning, storm planning, most definitely. I mean, that is right in Trisha's wheelhouse, and that's what she does every single day.
Okay.
So I think a good example of that is City Egan, where we actually ended up doing water, stormwater, and sanitary, and then looked at kind of an integrated plan and how they could minimize the overall stress on the aquifer by looking at things like reuse and alternative water supplies. And those documents were adopted by City Council in their overall comp plan, but they had individual chapters that we offered.
Okay. Good.
Anybody else, Council?
A question that maybe can't be answered or shouldn't be answered. In construction of a water treatment plant, do you have experience where you could add value to picking a bidder, in that you've worked with different construction companies and you find some are more on the ball than others?
So the short answer is yes. We definitely have
Okay.
opinions about construction contractors. A lot of our work is with municipalities, and usually they are, have municipal procurement laws that require them to, choose, somebody with the lowest price. That's
Right.
usually in the best interest of a city. So we don't get involved with that too
Right.
much, but yeah. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay.
I figured it was about as good as it gets.
Yeah. And if you go look at an alternative delivery method like the design build, certainly we would be partnering with a particular construction firm on that. One team is provide that entire project. Certainly have experience with working in that capacity with selecting a partner on how that would perform. But again, usually that's some sort of proposal, knowing that it's a design build coming out and proposing on that. Or on the other side of it, acting as the owner engineer to select another, engineering and consultant team to drive the project.
On projects, what's your process on following up with the contractors to make sure they're notifying parties like Excel to get power to a water tower, making sure the plant is running as it should? What's your standard process on following up? making sure
So I
things
assume
are
you're talking
working?
about construction. Usually on a project, there's a resident project representative, and it's that individual, usually on up to a good-sized project, that's really responsible. They work on behalf of the owner or on behalf of an engineering team to kind of make sure all those coordination things are in place. So, yeah, the short answer is, yeah, almost all of our construction projects have some sort of construction resident that's really one of their jobs is to help with that coordination.
Yeah, I think going back to the communication part, communication with staff, but also communication with the contractor is key. Regular meetings, a very regimented process for them putting questions in, us responding to questions, making sure we're getting city input on those questions before it goes back, making sure that all the documentation is done. Because if it gets lost, then it's at the end of the project, it's just pointing fingers. So we want to make sure that all of those things are set up in order.
Okay, good.
Do you have a water treatment plant under construction with the municipality right now?
Ironically, one with E2S, so we're partnered up in Fargo. It's actually in construction right now.
My question is just supply chain. Are you able to get stuff?
That's
I mean,
a whole other issue.
That's my biggest concern is we are looking at a plant getting in, you say 2 to 2.5 years, which is normal. I mean, are you still seeing that now, or are we talking due to supply chain issues? Hey, guess what? We're 3.5 years.
Yeah.
And that's our big question. I mean, that's going to be the challenge. We need to have this. And
As a great example on that, to that point, I mean, right now we're doing an upgrade at Burnsville. It's basically been put on hold. We had given them requirements that all the work had to be done by May 15th in order so we weren't hitting our summer peaking. The gear did not show up until June 1st. So we are sitting on gear waiting for installations and it has to be pushed out in the fall. And we're seeing that on a lot of projects. Some gear is worse than others, but most definitely supply chain is messing things up.
Yeah. We got 2 wastewater projects in going on right now, one in Shakopee, one in St. Paul. And I would say both are affected by the global uncertainty and supply chain issues. And there's no magic bullet for that, but we're certainly seeing that, and it is affecting the overall end date.
But there are strategies too where we can pre-procure or look at getting equipment ahead of time before design's done, when the city pre-purchases something, and then that's already available for when a contractor gets on board to install. So you can save a lot of time if you know exactly what we need, and you can save months of design time during that.
Okay.
I just have a real quick question. We have like a water specialist that's his main focus is on the water throughout our city, and that requires ongoing training. Do you guys offer that type of service for specialists and maybe a couple other employees so that they are well trained? So we don't have to call you all the time.
Yeah. The short answer is that a lot of the training that they probably need, they get through kind of state organizations and agencies, but we do quite a bit of training for continuing education credits. So we'll have a lot of technical courses that we make available to operators.
I've done training on site before, where you go in and say, here's the process. This is what we're trying to implement, and this is why we're implementing it. And sitting down with the operators and public works employees and say, this is what we're doing. This is why we're doing this, and so there's a better understanding on the end on how that gets pulled together. And there's lots of different ways that you can actually look at that data. So a lot of the stuff I do for the city of Burnsville is their operators will actually collect all the data, and then I will look at the updated data, give them opinions on what needs to happen. How do you change the treatment, and I don't really want to have people calling me all the time. If it's my philosophy is if they should know what it is, I want to teach them so they learn learn the why, so they can maybe call me as the next time it comes up and just as a check, but they're making the decision.
And you and I developed that tool, the calculator tool for Dayton, where like the water quality fluctuates. If you look at their chart, it's all up all over the map. And instead of, we made a simple tool where you put in the concentration and the flows and the temperature and whatever, all this, and it spits out exactly what they need. And we walk through why it's working, because it's important to understand how and why it's working. But then leave them with a tool that they can use every day just to make sure they're optimizing their dose and not overfeeding, which costs the city money, but make sure they get the treatment they need.
All right. Okay, thank you. I think that concludes our session with you. So thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
We'll be in touch.
Sorry for taking extra time, but
Yes.
I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Get them. I'll use you as the primary. Yeah, thanks. Since we've been kind of emailing back and forth.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, it's zero. Insurance.
Actually, cool too. It's nice.
That's really good.
Well, it's nice. You can settle in. And I think we have enough time. The office goes 30 minutes, 35 minutes. I think Shannon's deal, 15 minutes, 15 minutes. So I think we're still good.
Okay. So good evening and thank you for coming. As you can see, our name's here, so I won't reintroduce ourselves. But we have a few questions for you, and you'll have some time to answer those, and then they might stimulate some more questions by us. And so I'm just going to hand it over to you as Advanced Engineering and Environmental Services. So thank you for coming.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to meet with the City of Minnetrista and talk about AE2S and some of our background and find maybe some common ground and what we can maybe do to help you guys through some of your water challenges and opportunities. So yeah, we're excited to be here. I guess first off, we'll introduce the team and AE2S a little bit. AE2S, or Advanced Engineering and Environmental Services. We've been around for a little over 30 years. We were founded in 1991, really with intent to focus on drinking water. It was right around the Clean Drinking Water Act that we were founded. A lot of communities were struggling with the regulatory changes, treatment changes, and that's really the impetus of the company, was focused on solving drinking water challenges. Since then, we've grown into a company of over 300 professionals that are really focused on, again, water in any form or function. So drinking water, wastewater, water resources are really the three driving factors of the company and how we grow and different geographies and clients we work with. So as far as geographically where we're located, we're primarily in the upper Midwest. We are in 8 states, obviously Minnesota being one of them. We have 44 staff in Maple Grove, just a little ways away from you guys. And then offices spread throughout our geography. I think it's 17 now, something like that, and counting. So continue to grow and find clients that have needs for just different drinking water problems. To introduce the team a little bit, my name is Aaron Vollmer. I'm the client program leader with AE2S. My background is primarily in drinking water. I have a diverse background in treatment, storage, distribution, wells, you name it. I've had experience with that in drinking water. My current role with the company is client program leader, and really what that is I'm focused on the client experience. So it's about delivering for our clients, how we engage with you guys on a daily basis, the solutions that we're bringing to you to solve your problems, That's really my focus, as well as long-term planning for communities and just being kind of an oversight on technical solutions for the projects that we work on. And I'll let the rest of the team introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Richard Wagner, project manager with AE2S. Been with AE2S for over 20 years now. Focused on water all those 20 years. I've done master planning, I've done well design, water treatment plant, distribution systems, pump stations, everything that has to do with wells or with water, all around. That's my background anyways.
Get as high as I can. I'm Nicole Gosted. I have been with AE2S for just over 12 years, and my focus is really on the communication side of things and connecting some of that data and helping communicate to different audiences, whether it be taking all the engineering complex information and making it digestible for you guys to make decisions and understand everything that's involved, to working with from city staff on the outreach to the community and education and engagement that is municipal infrastructure, and showing what the value of all this stuff is to the community and the impacts.
So long story short, Nicole makes all of our boring engineering data very interesting and helps communicate it. So beyond the team that you see here, again, we have 300 staff within the company that are focused in various aspects of drinking water. As part of the team that we've proposed for the city of Minnetrista, we have a few specific ones that I'd like to talk about. On the left there, we've highlighted 3 experts in various forms of the drinking water industry. Dr. Deboer spent over 30 years in the education in the educational industry at SDSU, educating a lot of the engineering community in drinking water. He's been at the AE2S for about 10 years. His specialty really is operations and really specific drinking water technology, kind of optimization work. Where I really enjoy working with Del is his ability to connect with operators and help them work through their treatment challenges and really explain to them what's happening within the treatment system and educate them and help them feel like they're not just operating a black box. We also have Nancy Ziegler. So she's in our Maple Grove office, and she has a deep background in drinking water wells in the Twin Cities metro area. So she's worked for over 20 years doing various wells throughout the metro with various communities. So she'll be a wealth of knowledge for you guys on just, as you look to drill additional wells and grow your system. She'll be a valuable team member. And then Donovan Voller as well. He's our hydraulic modeling lead. We feel like a big part of this potential project is understanding your distribution system and how you guys use water and how you distribute it to your consumers. And the first part about understanding that is developing a hydraulic model that you feel is reliable and can actually help you understand how you're using water. So he'll be a huge part of the team. He's got over 15 years of experience in hydraulic modeling. That's what he does day in and day out. He's part of the rest of our modeling team of 5 or 6 guys that's all they do every day is just modeling for distribution systems. And then on the right, we have kind of more people that were already in the proposal that we can expand on. Steve Nelson has a depth of understanding of biological filtration and various other treatment technologies that we may want to encounter and review. Andrea Bowe, again, part of the communications team to help provide some guidance there. She does a lot of communications work for the city of Victoria, which is a neighboring community that I think you guys probably share similar characteristics with. And then the rest of the team, as far as additional hydraulic modeling staff, civil engineers to help with pipeline design and just planning, and then some of our technicians and inspection staff that would be a big part of the team down the road. And not to forget our teaming partners, KLM for water tower inspection, and EAPC would be focused on architectural and mechanical work. So to get into the questions that you guys proposed, the first question was give an example of how you've provided guidance to a community similar to Minnetrista. So I'm going to hand it over to Richard. He's going to talk a little bit about the city of Alexandria and Alexandria Light and Power and what we've done for them.
Thank you, Aaron. So yeah, when we looked at this question, there's a number of communities that came to mind of being similar to the city of Minnetrista. Alexandria Light and Power was one that came to the forefront. ALP is Alexandria Light and Power. They're a water utility within the city of Alexandria, so it's separate from the city oversight. So the city has their own city engineer, and they manage all the other roads and utilities, things like that. But the water is underneath ALP. So with ALP, so a couple other things. The city of Alexandria had a lot of similarities to Minnetrista as well, in the fact just population size. When we started with them, they're around 10,000 people or so, and now they're around 13,000. That's another similarity. And we just focused on water with ALP. But when we first job we did with ALP was some water wells for them, and that was in 19. Oh, should have advanced the slide. Sorry about that. That was 1999. That's the first well we did with them. From there, we continued to do some wells 14 and 15. And as they started to grow, they're starting to annex some areas around the city. There's some population growth. It's a lakes area community, and a lot of people had interest in moving there. So they recognized that there was going to be a need for additional water in the near future. So after we did wells 14 and 15, we ended up moving into doing some master planning for them. And we broke the master plans down into 4 master plans just to make it more manageable. First one was Tech Memo 1, which was a basis of planning. The second one was a Tech Memo 2, which was the distribution system, and Tech Memo 3 was the water supply. So the basis of planning, we started off by looking at their community, their growth areas, the direction they're moving, population growth, water demands, what type of water needs are out there, whether it's residential, commercial, industrial. So looked at those things, and also got a feel for what the vision was of the community, so we could build that into the master plan. So once we had that basis of design developed, we were able to move into the distribution master plan, in which we started looking at where's the water usage at? Is it north, south, east, west? Is it residential? Is it commercial? Where is that demand at? So coupling that with the basis of design, we were able to figure out where that water needed to move to and when it might need to move there. We also looked at storage, how much storage they had, how much storage they needed, and where that future storage might need to be as well. And then with storage, you also have to look at transmission, making sure you have water mains that can move that amount of water to the areas that you need it. So then the third tech memo, part of the master plan, was the water supply, and that was the wells. With the completion of wells 14 and 15 and for ALP, their well field, which that pretty much tapped it out. There was no room for additional wells in that area. So we had to look at where the next well field would be, how far away that might be, and how do we convey that water from the new well field to the water plant and the existing well field. So that was all part of that water supply master plan. In the late 2000s, we also recognized that they were starting to get to the end of their available treatment capacity. Not that their water plant wasn't sized for additional capacity, but they were just having struggles getting the capacity out of it. So we did a master plan for their water treatment, and that was Tech Memo number 4. And we looked at, what they would need to do to get additional capacity in their treatment and how to correct their existing treatment system. So we developed a master plan, and in that master plan, it was to build an addition to their water plant and then go back and rehab their existing water treatment plant to maximize the capability of their whole water treatment system. And once that master plan was done, we moved right into the design and construction of that water treatment plant. And all along, we're still looking at, we're still designed wells and constructed wells just to keep up with demand. As the water plant was wrapping up construction, they had enough capacity for treatment, but they didn't have the raw water supply at the time. So they chose just to slowly drill wells and increase their water supply as the need arose. With that, we also looked at, the operation of the water plant. They wanted a baseline of how the plant was operating just for future use, because with the struggles they had with their previous water treatment plant, they wanted to make sure that they had a good baseline so they could monitor the efficiency and how the plant was operating over time. As we move into 2020, currently, we're still implementing some of those pieces of the master plans. I mentioned the distribution master plan. As they replace water mains in town, usually coupled with a road reconstruction, our models help them decide on what size water mains to install, where those water mains need to be, and as since the whole transmission route is not necessarily all redone at the same time, we'll pick and choose pieces of roads that get redone, and we'll make sure that the water mains are sized properly so that in the end, they have a good conduit for the water to get to the future growth areas. Also, ALP they have an iron manganese removal water treatment plant, but due to some other outlying forces, they want to look at some softening options as well. So we're currently looking at softening alternatives for them in case they would like to implement that softening option in the future. And with that, and even beyond 2022, we're still implementing some of the capital improvement plan items that we had put together in the master plans. And that includes, additional water mains, that includes wells, raw water transmission mains, and water towers. We've got a water tower that's tentatively planned for 2024, so we'll start construction or start design in 2023. So we're still implementing those pieces. And I failed to mention some of the CIP, the capital improvement plan items, but when we completed that capital improvement plan, it gave the ALP, the utility, a roadmap, if you will, of what projects need to follow each project, and every year when they do their budgeting, they pull out the capital improvement plan. They look at what projects are potential either the next year or the next couple of years, and it helps them set their budgets for those upcoming years. So yeah, that's what other slide? So yeah, I guess that's 2024 and beyond. So so with that, I guess turn it back over to Aaron.
Thanks. So the next question you guys had was name a community what would our strategy be to meet the expectations of staff, other consulting engineers, and city council? And simply put, I know we laid out probably in much more detail in the proposal what we would do, but simply put, it starts with listening and then understanding and then delivering. Everything can kind of be boiled down to those three main tasks. We've already started the listening, talking with, the city staff, and doing our own research online through some of your challenges. We really feel like we've started to understand where Minitrista is as a community and your needs. We feel like we're starting to understand a lot of your challenges with your current drinking water, treatment plants in your distribution system. We laid a lot of those out in the proposal as far as the challenges within the plant for some of the inefficiencies that are there, some of the challenges with DOC and filtration timelines and backwash reclaim. A lot of those are common problems that we see in the drinking water industry, but it's important that we take the time to listen to the staff within Minnetrista and really understand why are those problems so we can start to talk about how we solve those problems. The second item would be understanding it. And I brought up hydraulic modeling, and I think that's really the first step to understanding a lot of your problems. Is we feel like there's a lot of question marks still about how does Minnetrista use water? What's the best way to solve that water use problem? Is it we need to look at how the demand side and the residents and how they use water? Do we need to look at your infrastructure and how it supplies those residents with that water? Everything has a solution. It's just whether or not we're willing to look into it, listen, and really understand what's happening to find that solution. So we feel like going through that exercise of developing a calibrated hydraulic model, looking at your north system and your south central system and understanding how those operate, because they're separate systems and how they could potentially be connected or stay separate. Just understanding that, so when we do move forward with a project, we know it's the right project and we're spending money in the right way. And that's really what it comes down to, is delivering, is putting together a plan that we all agree on, and we understand the technical background and why we're doing that, and then really delivering that for the community. So we, again, in a lot more detail, we laid that out, but that's really what it boils down to, is listening to you guys, understanding your challenges, doing what we do best in the engineering world is, diving into the details so we know what's happening and why, and then delivering that for the city. Because really, at the end of the day, it really should come down to an actionable vision. We can put together a preliminary design report, but if it sits on the shelf and never gets picked up, it's really not money well spent. It needs to be something that Gary and his team are using on an annual, if not regular basis, to understand, okay, what's next on our list of projects, and what's the best place for us to spend our money and why. It really needs to be an actionable plan that you guys understand why we're developing it and how it's going to be used. And I can't, tell you exactly what should be in that plan yet, because we haven't been through the understanding part of this. And that's really what we need to do next, is dive into the details and have a workshop with the stakeholders to listen to, okay, what are your needs? What do you want? What are your concerns? And let's make sure whatever plan we put together really is focused on solving those issues, so we can deliver in the best interest of the community. Another question was, you'd like to know about a form of communication challenge that we've had and how we overcame that challenge. So I'm going to talk about actually a case study that we're, some of its history, some of its current, but the city of Woodbury, for those of you who know, it's a large community on the eastern side of the metro, has a lot of water quality challenges right now. Washington County, almost the entire county, has PFAS contamination in the groundwater. So we're the lead engineer with the city of Woodbury, helping them through that current crisis. And the real challenge that they had was that they have a substantial number of wells that are over the health index for contamination, so they're not able to use them without treatment, and they're growing really quickly. So they've got two challenges. They've got reduced well capacity and increased population. So they're reaching this breaking point of, can we meet water demand with our community and still develop how we want to develop and meet all the other goals that we have as a community, but still provide clean, safe drinking water. Again, we started working with the city of Woodbury about 3 years ago, and we started down a path of solutions that were really focused on, again, understanding the problem and then helping to develop what we think is the best solution to move forward. So we started with developing a water system model. They had an existing model, but we felt like we really needed to add some detail to it, calibrate it so we understood the interactions hydraulically between their wells. They did not have treatment at that time, so they had 19 wells that we had to kind of understand hydraulically how they operated. So we developed that model. As part of as a follow-up to the model development, we actually developed what we call the PFAS treatment master plan. So if they were to move forward with treatment, what were the best options that they should be looking at, and of those options, which ones were the best fit for the community and their goals. So as part of that master plan, we listed out, what are your treatment target goals? What are your goals for growth as a community? What are your big concerns? What are we trying to treat to for a finished water quality? So we developed that master plan, and as part of that plan, we actually discovered some short-term concerns that we needed to resolve before we could get to the long-term, addressing any long-term concerns. Because they were having continued contamination in their wells and additional wells that were coming offline, we recognized an issue that they would not be able to meet peak water demand in the summer in a few years. So what we did was we put together a couple technical memos and engaged with the state, the DNR, and the MPCA to talk to them about the issues. And again, this is part of the overall 3M settlement. So we had specific people that we were already interacting with. And ultimately, we agreed that Woodbury had essentially an emergency on their hands, that they needed to declare a state of emergency for the community and build a treatment plant to treat some of the wells that had PFAS contamination. So as part of that, we were able to actually design and build a treatment plant in about 6 months. To have it up and running. It was very temporary, so it's nothing you'd want to build for a permanent facility, but it solved their near-term problems. And we were able to work with the staff for the city, the agency, the different state agencies to secure about $8 million in funding to do that, and the community, and just communicate the challenge that the community had and why they were doing this project. So once we solved that problem, we actually helped them look for ways to kind of manage the planning and the communication and kind of that I'll call a near to short term time frame, that we actually developed an Excel spreadsheet tool using our hydraulic model that allowed them to understand as they develop, and they can look, if they develop 400 units per year or 600 units per year, how fast could they develop and still keep up with water demand based on the level of contamination that we had. And that was a very simple tool that all their staff could use. So as they approved development requests, they were able to review the tool, make sure what they were approving was still within their ability to meet, and they didn't have to continue to come back to us and ask for additional model runs and a lot of additional analysis. They're able to use the spreadsheet to just generally understand were they close enough for concern. And then all of this boils into really communication tools to all of these stakeholders, the city staff, the council members, the community, and we lean on Nicole and our communications team to really pull together handouts and graphics and things that are concisely and quickly communicate what the city's doing and why to the stakeholders. So I'll let Nicole talk a little bit about some of those graphics.
Sure. Yeah, no doubt that this is definitely a challenging project to communicate, but it was really fun because really getting to understand each of the different stakeholders and providing information that was valuable to each of those type of stakeholders, I think was helpful along the process, from taking the 300 to 400 page report and narrowing it down to a concise executive summary that we could bring to state legislators and city council, regulators, and communicate what are the key points, key recommendations, how it all fits together. It's a moving process, so being able to adjust that information as we went and communicate the value of each of the different alternatives was a big piece of the project, I think. And then also we're currently still working with the city communication staff to communicate then a lot of this information on a resident level and a public level to make sure residents are educated on what we're doing, get buy-in on them on major milestones before we have any big uproar. And then really, water quality and health issues are a hot topic. It's easy for your community to get stirred up, but making sure education was readily available as the state of emergency was about to happen, wells are going offline, and making any sort of construction updates along the water mains. Everybody's informed every step of the way so that the process is smooth and questions are answered before there's any other rumors or concerns being brought up. I think to date it's been pretty successful. I'll knock on wood as we're getting into the next phases, but this for a PFAS a water quality contamination project, they've had a lot of buy-in from the community and positive engagement thus far. So I think that helps big time in the overall success of the project.
And it's really a great example of how you take the engineering effort that we put in to understand these things and turn it into something that we know is actionable and solving the problems for the community, and then communicating the value of that work and what we did and value of that understanding and that infrastructure. And I guess the last question that you guys had was really what sets us apart from other water engineering groups or firms. I talked a little bit about how we're a water-focused company. We focus on drinking water, wastewater, and water resources. But we understand, just as Nicole kind of explained, a lot of what we do isn't really water. It's about communicating things. It's about all of the other things that surround that water problem. It's just that we're the driving force of what we do is water, but there's a lot of tools you need in your tool belt to solve those problems. So this is just a list of a lot of the other departments or groups that work within AE2S that provide various services to our clients. We have a good civil engineering group that provides a lot of the standard pipeline design type services. We have a hydraulic modeling group that focuses just on distribution system modeling. Electrical engineering we have electrical engineers that focus on just drinking water and wastewater plants and the challenges that they would experience. Structural engineering, how do you build a concrete tank that retains water? We have guys, our structural team focuses on those things. And then a couple of specific ones that we'll talk about here, Nicole and our communications group and how we focus on communicating water-related challenges, and then our instrumentation and controls group that focuses on SCADA systems and the brains of water plants and how you make those facilities operate correctly and reliably. So I'll let Nicole talk a little bit about the communications team.
Yeah, I'm sure it was maybe a surprise that we had brought a communications person to a drinking water project, but like we've said, maybe I'm biased that communication is one of the most critical pieces of this, whether it's from in the project communicating what is the engineering side of things to the resident side. So just like we've gained services around that drinking water engineering, wastewater engineering service, we added a communications team about, I think, 15 years ago. And it was really based off of us seeing the need in communities just like Minnetrista to provide a communications aspect to these projects. And so now we have a staff of about 15 people that range from myself in a graphic design and marketing standpoint to web designers, digital designers, past PR staff, and then specific communication strategists. Like we have Marty Dahl, I think was in the proposal. He used to work for the city of Burnsville as a communications director, and then most recently he worked for the city of Victoria as an economic development director. So we bring in that side of those aspects of the project that see growth from a different perspective, see how we communicate all this information from really a different perspective, how we arm you as a council to communicate this information and help make these decisions much easier on your end. So that's our in-house communications team that I think provides a different level, a unique aspect to our team.
And then one other specific group that I want to focus on is our instrumentation and controls group. That's really one thing that makes us unique as a consulting firm is we have an in-house controls group. And even our local office in Maple Grove, we have 7 instrumentation and controls engineers that really just provide local service. And it really speaks to kind of A2S as a firm is we're really about client first, service oriented, responsiveness, and we really felt like when we added our instrumentation and controls group to the company, it was really because a lot of the projects we would design from a drinking water standpoint always struggled at the very end because we didn't have a good integrator come in to program the facility. So we were really focused on how do we streamline delivering this project for the client and eliminate that challenge. And we felt like it was the best thing we could do is just bring that service in-house and roll it into a lot of everything else we do from a design standpoint. Our instrumentation and controls team is part of the design typically and helping us as process engineers make sure that all the electrical and instrumentation is correctly designed and laid out to do what it's supposed to do. And then they're typically there through commissioning to help make sure that what the design was is ultimately how the facility functions. So again, the real takeaway from our controls group is that it's a very client-focused group, and that kind of theme runs through a lot of our specific specialty groups on really client focus and just to help us as a company deliver projects for our clients. And at the end of the day, what really makes us different, we have a motto called Extreme Client Service. It's literally hanging in our lunchroom. It says, "Have you been extreme today?" And it really boils down to putting clients' needs first, being responsive, and actively working to understand your business, understanding how you serve your client, your community, and what we need to do to make your life easier. And really, at the end of the day, our value really is based on your approval and how much you feel we're worth. And ultimately, that's why we kind of coin it as extreme client service. We're here day in and day out to make your guys' job easy, to solve your problems, and to really to put your community first. So that's what really makes us different.
Thank you. So I'm going to go to very good presentation. Thanks. You. Council, questions?
I was really, really happy with the amount of research you did on our city for for the presentation that you wrote up that we received. I thought that was above and beyond for a brand new project and a brand new company to present. So I applaud you on that. My question is, Black and Veatch happened to mention that you're doing a project together. So what is entailed that the two of you would do a project together?
Well, it'd be interesting to know which one, because we do quite a few together, actually.
You do?
I guess we're talking about the Western Dakota Regional Water System.
Maybe, yeah.
Which is a
And you're
large-
actually...
City of Fargo.
Yeah.
Fargo.
So,
in Fargo.
so Richard's actually managing a project with Bo and Scott and those guys as our sub-consultant team right now.
So what is it that they're doing that you're not doing, and vice versa?
Go ahead.
So, as a Black and Veatch is a national consultant, and I shouldn't speak for them, but they're a national consultant. They have some experts in very precise treatment technologies and other things. So we bring that element into our projects as well. So we team. We use the expertise of each team member, whether it's whatever A2S has to bring or Black and Veatch has to bring, we bring those together.
That's great.
And use that together. And as Aaron mentioned, there's a number of projects. The city of Fargo, Black and Veatch designed the original Fargo water treatment plant, and so they had that the water treatment plant expansion that we did 6-8 years ago or so. That was a teaming effort between A2S and Black and Veatch, so we partnered on it. They had there's a mutual agreement as well where we try to split the projects 50-50 or so as well. So it's just an effort to try to leverage the expertise of both firms.
Okay, good.
And ultimately, we're a regional specialty firm, so we really focus on the long-term client needs, where Black and Veatch, like Richard said, is a national specialty firm. So they focus on, advanced technologies, things like that. So we partner really well together from that standpoint. Is we have a lot of what I'd call national level expertise that we employ at a local level. but sometimes there's things that we don't have that we would bring them in for.
Very, very good.
So I have to ask this question. I asked it before. Have you had experience with the DNR drilling into the Mount Simon?
Myself, no, but we
In your
have. So,
company?
but Nancy has, and the Mount Simon is definitely a challenging policy discussion, I guess, with
Right.
the DNR about what they're willing to allow and not. And I don't think they allow any new wells into the Mount Simon. Only replacement of wells, or if you don't have any other options.
All right. Any other questions? I know you, Gary had some SCADA questions before, so I think those were answered that very well.
Let's do this question, same question as them. Supply issues, stuff going on right now with the water treatment plant that would be under construction. Honestly, what would your timeline think would be from the design plans, bid out, construction? I mean, what are you really honestly talking about the water treatment plant? Used to be you get one done in 2 years. What honestly are you looking at now with the supply chain issues that we're running into for everything? I mean, we need it done sooner than later, but what is your real ultimate number for how many years?
Well, the answer is always it depends, right? It depends on how big the facility is, what type of technology we're putting in it. I mean, there's a lot of question marks yet on exactly what that treatment facility would look like. If you would ask, if based on your current facilities, if we were just to replicate one of those, I would say that facility could probably be, I would probably give it 18 months for construction, just to help with some of the lead times on procurement. The biggest problem right now is electrical gear, is what we're seeing. So you would want to move some of that quickly. Design-wise, I would give yourself a year. I don't know.
Yeah,
I'll let you answer that one.
Speaking on some of the material availability, the last few projects I've done, 6 months from the date you bid and award a project, it's been in do shop drawings. It's 6 months to get materials, and I'm sure you've seen some of that too. And it's ridiculous. It used to be 4 to 6 weeks in some of the stuff, but 6 months now is what we've been seeing. So as Aaron had said, depending on the design, if we're just we know what we have to design and get right into and start the design. You can turn those out. We've got a team that we can put together and do those in, less than a year, of course. And it's some of it's gonna depend on season as well. If you start, spring, with the design, unfortunately, it'd be tough to get something rolling too quick. If you did a spring, you'd get a design done by fall, and you try to get that bid out so that the contractors can get the materials ordered and get them on site so that they can start work right after the winter. But there's a lot of variables, so I don't have an exact answer for you, unfortunately.
I think conservatively a year for design and 18 months for construction would be probably, at this point, probably a good estimate.
Okay. I think that answers all of our questions. Thank you very much. Great presentation. Thank you for coming, and we'll be in touch.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, how fast can we get through this?
I can read right now. You think you guys probably.
Do we want to move it to the next work session?
Or could you make a special presentation?
I hate to do that.
This rate, I did it out. We pay $5,000 for our well. No, it actually, it's almost exactly that amount.
Well, that's that's when everything else I should come on. I also have to use this. I thought I saw her rate.
And that's what I was looking for.
Yeah. So this is just the flat rate, which right now is the
Yeah.
So
we can use the 225 I was using that.
that's for 3 months.
3 months. Okay, fine.
So we've got it here. Here's the
flat quarterly rate that we pay. And then this is per gallon on top of it. Per thousand. So, yeah. So the flat rate's not an issue. You can do it or whatever.
Let me ask
Council, so we're kind of running into a time crunch here. We have the rate discussion coming up. Staff is saying do it under special presentations, but that means we're going to have a discussion on it. Generally, we don't under special presentations, so we can do it under special presentations, have that discussion, or we can bring it back maybe at another work session.
Can we just add it to a business item?
Then he has to wait around. So
Well, can he do his presentation under special presentations, and then we talk about it on the business?
well, you might as well do it all together then. Yeah. Then I would do it as a first business item.
Fine.
How
Okay.
soon could you come back with the next work session?
I have to check my calendar.
I think you want to talk about it today, though.
I mean, we're going to have budget stuff at the next work session and stuff, and I don't know. I mean, we'd have to look how it fit in. To me, I mean, if you could do a presentation, we could talk about it for a little bit. I mean, it adds 10, 20 minutes to the regular meeting, or 20, 30, but...
Well, we'll do it under business items then, and then we can decide if we want to talk about it or if we just. So the business items should come up fairly quickly, and we'll do you as number one. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. All right. With that, we'll just add that then when it comes time to approve the agenda.
Sure.
With that, then we need to be adjourned. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Pam. Okay. Pam made the motion and Kathleen seconded that. All those in favor signify with aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. 5-0.